There is a stripe of cold air lying across your floor right now. You cannot see it, but your ankles know exactly where it is. It starts at the front door and finds you on the sofa. The thermostat says the room is warm. Your feet say the thermostat is lying. Come in by the stove, there is coffee in the pot. Most people fight that stripe the same way. They turn the heat up a notch and pull the blanket higher. The stripe stays. I am Thor Fjellheim, and I have kept the winter out of this house above the fjord for more than 60 years. Tonight I will show you the door trick my house runs on. It has 4 parts, and one old habit that beats them all. One part you can build this evening from things you already own. One costs a few dollars at any hardware store. The rest cost nothing at all. Walk to my front door in January and hold your hand at the floor. Nothing moves, not because the door is new. It is older than most of my neighbors, the paint is thin and the wood is scarred. But the air at that threshold stands as still as the air in a cupboard. Here is the sentence that changes how you see your own hallway. The cold is not pushing its way in under your door. It is being pulled in. Your house is doing the pulling, and until you know what is doing the pulling, every fix you try is a bandage on the wrong leg. I learned this in my first own house, the winter of 1983, a little timber place further up the hill. The floor by the door was so cold, the cat would not cross it. I did what everyone does. I stuffed a rag against the gap and felt clever for a whole day. An older neighbor watched me do it and said nothing. He just lit a candle and set it on the floor by my door. The flame lay over sideways like grass in wind. Then he carried it up the stairs to the loft hatch. The flame lay over there too. Same wind. 2 floors apart. He tapped the hatch with one finger. The warm air of my house was escaping up there, he said, and every liter that left was pulling a liter of January in under my door. I have said his sentence to myself every autumn since. A house that leaks at the top drinks at the floor. That sentence is the whole of this video. A house that leaks at the top drinks at the floor. The 4 parts are just that sentence applied. Find where the air moves. Block the drink tonight. Fix the door for good. Then close the leak upstairs that started all of it. First, the fix almost everyone reaches for, the thermostat. It feels logical. The room is cold, so you ask for more heat. But warm air is lighter than cold air. The warmer the house gets, the harder that air climbs, and the harder it pushes out through every crack high in the building. Air that leaves has to be replaced. That is not opinion, that is pressure. When warm air escapes at the top of the house, the pressure low in the house drops, and outside air is drawn in through the lowest openings it can find. The biggest low opening in almost every home is the gap under the front door. Wind adds its own shove on top of that pull. On a gusty night, the stripe on your floor pulses with each gust, stronger on the side of the house the weather hits. But wind comes and goes. The pull is there every hour the house is warmer than the sky. The pull is the one to kill. So turning the heat up makes the draft stronger, not weaker. The bigger the difference between inside and outside, the harder the house pulls. You pay more to make the problem worse. The day I understood that, I stopped being angry at my door. The door was never the villain. It was only the easiest way in. Let me put a number on that gap. A gap 1/8 of an inch tall, under a standard front door, lets in as much air as a hole 2.5 inches wide punched straight through your wall. You would never leave a hole like that open in January. Most houses leave exactly that right at the floor. And the gaps add up. The people who measure these things say air leaks account for 25 to 40% of what a typical home spends on heating and cooling. Not the walls, not the glass, the little openings. Which is good news, because little openings are the one thing an ordinary person can fix. Part 1 costs nothing. Before I fix anything, I find out where my house is drinking. On the first cold evening of autumn, I cut a strip of paper the width of 2 fingers and I hold it at the bottom of every door in the house. Where the strip trembles, air is moving. A candle shows it even better the way my neighbor showed me. The flame leans away from the leak and points across the room like a small wet finger. I keep it a hand's breadth from anything that hangs, and I never walk away from it. 60 winters and the house has not burned yet. In the daytime there is an easier test still. I switch off the hallway light and look at the closed front door. If daylight shows under it, weather has an open road. Light and air travel the same gaps. Where one gets through, the other is already coming. Then I walk the whole bottom floor with that paper strip, skirting boards, the floor hatched to the crawl space, the corner where the pipes come up under the sink. I write each live leak on a scrap of paper. 10 minutes of walking, and I know my house better than the man who built it. The door itself has two little mouths people forget. The letter slot, which swings open to every gust, and the keyhole of an old lock, which is a tunnel straight through the wood. A brush flap covers the first. A small swinging cover plate has closed keyholes for 200 years. Both cost pocket change. Part 2 is the trick in the title, and you can build it tonight. In Norway we call it a doorpulse, the door sausage, a tube of cloth long as the door is wide, laid tight against the gap. My mother kept one at every outside door, and her mother before her. It is not a Norwegian secret, to be honest. The door sausage turned up across Scandinavia in the second half of the 1800s, and Victorian houses had them stuffed with sawdust. Australians fill them with sand and call them door snakes. Cold floors breed the same inventions everywhere. Mine is the leg of a worn-out pair of wool trousers. I sew one end shut, fill it with dry sand for weight, and sew the other end. No machine, just a needle and 10 minutes by the stove. A long sock filled with rice works. What clever tricks did you or your family use to keep the cold out of your home? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. A rolled bath towel works tonight before you sew anything. Here is why a soft roll of cloth beats the cold. It is not the wool that stops the draft. It is the air trapped inside the wool, held perfectly still. Still air is one of the poorest carriers of heat there is. Remember that sentence. You will watch it work again before we are done. I lay it against the door from the inside and press it into the gap with my foot. On a windy night I hear the difference within a minute. The stripe on the floor dies. The candle stands up straight. The thermostat has not moved, but the sofa is suddenly a better seat. Wool takes on damp through a winter, and a damp roll is a cold roll. So once a week mine hangs an hour on the peg nearest the stove while the floor gets swept anyway. It dries, it fluffs, the still air comes back. An old thing serves for decades if you let it breathe now and then. And here is the honest limit. Because a trick you only hear the good half of is a trap. The sausage falls out of place every time the door opens. It does nothing for the sides or the top of the door. It is a night watchman, not a repair. The repair is part 3. Part 3 is the door, fixed for good, a door sweep. A strip of aluminium with a rubber blade, screwed along the inside bottom edge, so the blade strokes the threshold as the door swings. It handles a gap up to ½ an inch, and every hardware store on earth has a wall of them. Fitting one is inside anybody's reach. I close the door, hold the sweep so the blade just kisses the floor, mark the screw holes with a pencil and drive the screws. Too tight and the door drags. Too loose and January comes back. The pencil line is the whole skill. Next I run the paper strip round the sides and the top of the door and press self-stick foam or felt into every live gap. And now I am curious about your side of the water. Hold a strip of paper at your own door tonight and tell me in the comments if it moved and how cold your January gets. I read everyone. That foam strip works for the same reason the wool sausage works. Millions of tiny pockets of trapped still air. You have now seen the same law twice, once in cloth and once in foam. Still air stops heat. Moving air steals it. Everything in this video is a way of making air stand still. If daylight still shows at a corner, I look at the threshold itself. 60 winters of boots wear a hollow into any doorstep. Some thresholds rise a turn with a screwdriver. On mine I glued a strip of hardwood, plain to fit the hollow, and the door has been silent since. Seal all 4 edges, and the sums get serious. A gap of 1/8 of an inch around a whole entry door equals a hole 5½ inches across in your outside wall. Close it with a sweep and a few meters of felt, and you have bricked up a porthole you never knew was open. Part 4 is the one nobody does, and it is the part my neighbor taught me on the stairs. The drink stops at the floor, but the thirst starts at the top. So now I go up, not down. Close the top of the house, and the pull under every door goes quiet on its own. The loft hatch is the front door of the roof, and most of them seal like a sieve. I run the same felt strip around the hatch frame that I ran around the door, and I lay a square of insulation on its back. 20 minutes. The least glamorous fix in this video, and the strongest. The paper strip finds the rest of the top. The attic door if your stairs go all the way. The gap where the chimney passes the ceiling. The hole where pipes and wires go up in a cupboard nobody opens. Everyone is an open tap at the top of the tank. Close them and the cold under your front door loses its engine. Now the old habit I promised, the one that beats all the hardware. Norwegian houses were long built with a vindfang, a wind catch, a small cold room with 2 doors, one to the weather and one to the house, and you never stood with both open at once. An airlock 100 years before anyone flew. The sense of it is simple. When the outer door opens, only the little porch of cold falls in, and the inner door holds the line. The house never meets the street. Every stubborn old farmhouse on this coast has one, and the coats and boots live out there where their weather belongs. No porch? You very likely still own a vindfang without knowing it. Any hallway with an inner door is one. The moment the inner door is closed before the outer opens, one door at a time. In my childhood, every adult in Norway said it to every child in winter, and the habit costs less than everything else in this video. It costs nothing but manners. While we are at it, the front door is rarely the only drinker. The back door takes the same sweep and felt. The cellar door is often the coldest door in the house, and if your garage touches the house, the door between them stands against a room that is nearly outdoors all winter. I treat everyone like the front. Now the warning, set exactly where it belongs. A house must still breathe. The small fresh air vents in the walls and the window frames are there on purpose, and I never block them. A wood stove or a gas boiler needs its air the way you need yours. Starve it, and it pulls its own chimney backwards. A chimney pulled backwards is how carbon monoxide enters a room, and you cannot smell it or see it coming. So the rule in this house is short. I seal the accidental gaps, the ones no person designed. Every vent that was put there on purpose stays exactly as the builder left it. One more gap I leave alone. In houses with ducted warm air heating, the gap under the inside doors is part of the machine. The warm air needs a road back to the furnace. Seal a bedroom door tight in such a house, and the heating fights itself all night. Outside doors only, that is the line. A few things I never do. I never fill a moving door's gap with expanding foam. Because a door you cannot open is not a door, it is a wall with hinges. I never seal a room that holds a flame. And I never chase a perfectly airtight old house. I close the waste and I leave the breathing. And the honest list of what this trick will not do. It will not warm a house with empty walls. It will not save a window whose single pane is tired and weeping. It quiets moving air, and it does that well. The standing cold in a bad wall is a different war for a different evening. If windows are your worst wall, I have walked through my window trick in another video, and the two belong together. The door stops the drink at the floor. The window stops the loss through the glass. A house wants both, the way a coat wants buttons and a collar. People keep asking where these winter habits are written down, so I will say it once and then leave it be. I put the whole list of them in a little book, and the link sits under this video if you ever want it. That is all I will say about that. Why did nobody tell you the pulling story? No scheme, no conspiracy of door makers. Money simply runs the other way. There is profit in a new front door and profit in a bigger heat pump. There is no profit anywhere in a rolled towel, a strip of felt, and 10 to 15% off the heating bill. A thing nobody has a reason to sell is a thing nobody has a reason to mention, and in a generation is gone. My mother's door sausage did not vanish because it stopped working. It vanished because nothing about it could be printed on a box and put on a shelf with a price. The last habit means I almost never do any of this twice. Every autumn, on the first evening, cold enough to see my breath, I take the paper strip and walk the doors and the hatch once. 5 minutes. Felt goes flat in a few years. The walk finds it before January does. Then the first real cold night arrives, and this is the payment. The stripe on the floor is gone. The cat sleeps in the hallway now. The stove holds the evening on less wood than it used to, and the thermostat sits a notch lower than the neighbors would dare. The house is not fighting anymore. It is just standing there, warm. If you keep one thing from tonight, keep the sentence from the stairs in 1983. A house that leaks at the top drinks at the floor. Stop the drink tonight with a rolled towel. Fix the door this weekend with a sweep and felt. Then go upstairs and close the leak that started it all. And one small thing this week that costs nothing at all. If there is an older person in your family who kept a cold house warm, ask them what they laid against the door and what they called it. Write the answer down in your own hand. Those names are falling out of the world one winter at a time. Earlier I asked you to hold a strip of paper at your front door, and I meant it. Come back when you have done it and tell me if the strip moved, how cold your January gets, and what your family called the sausage at the door. I sit here by the stove with the list, and I read every single one. The stove behind me is ticking as it cools, and the fjord outside the window has gone dark for the night. Both of them will be here next time, and so will I. If an old man's winters are of use to you, come back and sit with me again. I will keep the coffee warm.